I could hear the laughter echoing from the ballroom long before I saw the gilded doors close behind me. Crystal chandeliers shimmered through the frosted glass, spilling warm light into the narrow service corridor where I now sat, at a table meant for caterers, not family. The name card on the linen napkin still made my throat tighten. Olivia Hayes, kitchen seating. They hadn't even tried to hide it. I smoothed the sleeve of my pale blue silk blouse, pretending the fabric's softness could somehow cushion the sting. The scent of roasted salmon and champagne drifted through the cracked door. Someone inside was giving a toast, probably about how perfect the groom was. My brother always was the golden child. I stared at my reflection in the silver tray leaning against the wall, calm eyes, flawless lipstick, an expression that gave away nothing. No one here would guess what I'd built, or who I'd become. A faint vibration rattled my phone on the counter. For a second, I hesitated. Maybe I could just endure the evening, slip out quietly before dessert. But then another burst of laughter erupted, my mother's voice, bright and proud, mentioning my brother's business genius. Something inside me snapped into clarity. I unlocked my phone, scrolled past the endless work contacts until I found the one name that mattered tonight. My finger hovered, then pressed call. As the first ring echoed in my ear, a calm smile spread across my face. They wanted me hidden in the kitchen. Fine. But the next course would be mine to serve. I was 19 when I realized that love in our house had conditions. Back then, our small Ohio home smelled like lemon polish and silent expectations. My mother kept the curtains drawn during the day, said sunlight faded the furniture. My father barely spoke unless he was asking about my brother, Ethan. He was the future of the family, the name everyone remembered at church, the one who made us proud. Me? I was the dreamer, which in our house was another word for disappointment. I still remember the night it all cracked open. I'd come home breathless, clutching a folder from a scholarship interview, a design program in New York that could change everything. Ethan was already in the living room, surrounded by congratulations. He'd just secured a business loan from one of Dad's friends. When I tried to share my news, Mom didn't even look up from refilling his glass. "That's nice, honey," she said absently. "But maybe wait a year. Focus on something stable." Her words stung more than she'd ever know. Ethan glanced at me, smirking. "Olivia, it's art school. Not exactly Wall Street." My throat tightened, but I forced a laugh. "Yeah. Guess we can't all be perfect investments." The air turned sharp. Dad's voice cut through it. "Watch your tone." It was my grandmother, sitting quietly by the window, who finally broke the silence. She reached for my hand, her fingers paper-thin, but warm. "Liv," she whispered, using the nickname no one else did. "Never wait for a seat at their table. Build your own, and serve yourself first." Something about that moment branded itself into me. A week later, when the scholarship letter arrived, accepted, full ride, I packed my things in silence. My parents didn't come to the bus station. Ethan didn't say goodbye, but Grandma did. She hugged me tight and slipped her silver bracelet onto my wrist. "For luck," she said. It wasn't luck I needed. It was faith in myself. And as the bus pulled away, that bracelet caught the sunlight through the window, flashing like a promise. That was the last time I saw my family, until today. New York didn't welcome me with open arms. It swallowed me whole. My first apartment was a fourth-floor walk-up that smelled like old coffee and wet paint. The radiator hissed louder than my thoughts. I'd eat ramen by the window at night, watching yellow cabs stream past like rivers of light, each one carrying someone who probably had their life figured out. Art school wasn't a dream. It was a battlefield. Professors tore apart my designs, clients ghosted my pitches, and my shoes had holes by the end of the semester. Still, every rejection felt like sandpaper, rough, painful, but shaping me into something stronger. I took every job I could, designing cafe menus, painting window signs, retouching photos for social media influencers who never remembered my name. But one night, everything shifted. It was nearly 2 a.m. in the campus studio when Mara Lindell, The visiting lecturer with silver hair and a voice like soft thunder paused beside my desk. She studied my sketches in silence, then said, "You design like someone who's been told to shrink. Stop doing that." That sentence cracked something open in me. Mara became my mentor, the kind who didn't sugarcoat reality. She taught me how to pitch, how to walk into a boardroom without apologizing, how to price my worth without guilt. When I graduated, she offered me an internship at her boutique branding agency in Manhattan. The pay was laughable. The hours were brutal. But I learned, and slowly I rose. One project became 5, then 20. I started getting calls from clients who wanted me, not the company. 2 years later, I walked away and founded Hayes Studio, out of a one-bedroom apartment with peeling walls and a second-hand laptop. It took 3 years to turn a profit, 5 to be featured in Forbes' Top 30 Under 30, and 8 to quietly buy out the building that once charged me late rent. Through it all, I kept my success hidden. My family still thought I was doing freelance work. I let them believe it. My posts were simple: a cup of coffee, a city view, no logos, no nameplates. The truth was, I'd become one of the most sought-after creative directors in the East Coast hospitality industry. Hotels, restaurants, even luxury wedding venues. All carried my touch. When Mara retired, she handed me the keys to her agency. "You built your table," she told me. "Now decide who gets a seat." That bracelet from Grandma never left my wrist, a quiet reminder of where I came from and what I'd built alone. So when my brother's wedding invitation arrived, embossed, elegant, my name neatly printed at the bottom, I smiled. Not because I was invited, but because the venue name at the top, Hayes Estate, mine. The kitchen's clock ticked softly behind me as the call connected. "Ms. Hayes," a calm voice answered. "Everything's in place. Shall we proceed?" "Yes," I said. My tone was steady, too steady for the storm inside me. "Bring it in." The line clicked off. I slipped my phone into my clutch and took one last glance at my reflection in the steel oven door. Not the trembling art student anymore. This was the woman who'd learned to rise in silence. From the ballroom came the muffled sound of applause, the clinking of glasses, the hollow ring of toasts celebrating a family that had long ago decided I didn't belong. I pushed open the kitchen door. The light hit me first, chandeliers scattering diamonds across marble floors. Guests whirled in sequin gowns, champagne flutes glittering in their hands. My mother's laughter carried across the room, perfectly polished, as she leaned against my father's shoulder. They didn't see me at first. No one did. Until the heavy doors at the far end opened. A luxury black car had pulled up outside the venue I owned. From it stepped my head event manager, 2 assistants, and a man in a sharp suit holding a silver folder embossed with the Hayes Studio logo. A hush fell. Heads turned. "Excuse me," my manager said politely to the master of ceremonies. "Ms. Olivia Hayes would like to make a quick announcement regarding the evening's arrangements." The name rippled through the crowd like static. My mother froze mid-laugh. My father straightened. My brother, Ethan, turned, glass halfway to his lips. I walked forward, my heels tapping like slow applause. "Good evening," I said, voice smooth, unhurried. "I hope everyone's enjoying the celebration." No one spoke. "I just wanted to thank you all for joining us here tonight at Hayes Estate. I founded the company that owns this venue 8 years ago. So, welcome." A collective murmur surged, then silence again. Heavy, breathless. My mother blinked rapidly. "You own this place?" I smiled softly. "Yes, Mom. Every chandelier, every table, every single chair, including the ones in the kitchen." The words landed like a quiet thunderclap. Ethan's fiancée looked between us, unsure whether to smile or hide. Ethan himself gave a low, disbelieving laugh. "You're joking." "Do I look like I'm joking?" I asked, meeting his gaze. He didn't answer. My father cleared his throat. "You could have told us." "I could have," I agreed. "But you weren't really listening back then. Remember? Art school wasn't practical." A flicker of shame crossed his face. My mother's lipstick trembled at the corners. I took a slow breath, letting the weight of the moment settle. When you sat me in the kitchen tonight, I realized something. I didn't come here to prove anything. I came because I finally can. Behind me, my event team began discreetly placing fresh floral arrangements near the head table. White roses, my signature touch. My logo shimmered on every card. I stepped closer to my family, lowering my voice. For years, I thought I had to earn a seat at your table. But the truth is, I built my own, and it's a lot bigger than this one. No anger, no revenge. Just quiet power. My grandmother's bracelet caught the light as I lifted a glass from a passing tray. To Ethan, I said, raising it. And to family, the ones we're born into and the ones we build ourselves. The guests echoed my toast. Some clapped. My mother's eyes shone, not entirely from pride, but from realization. And in that shimmering silence, I finally felt what I'd chased my whole life. Not approval. Freedom. After the toast, the music picked up again, but the mood had shifted, like someone had changed the gravity in the room. Guests tried to resume their conversations, but their glances kept flicking toward me. My family sat stiffly at the main table, words trapped somewhere between apology and disbelief. Ethan was the first to move. He stepped toward me, loosening his tie, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Liv, he said, voice soft. I didn't know. I mean, I knew you were doing well. But this? He gestured around helplessly. You could have said something. I tilted my head slightly. Would you have listened? He opened his mouth, then shut it again. Mom's voice broke in, delicate as glass. Olivia, sweetheart, we never meant to hurt you. We just wanted you to be secure. Secure? I repeated quietly. You wanted me to be small, predictable, the kind of woman who doesn't threaten anyone's comfort zone. Dad looked away. Ethan's fiancée stared down at her hands. I took a slow breath. The old ache was still there, but softer now, like a scar that had finally stopped bleeding. I didn't come here for an apology, I said. I came because I realize forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about boundaries. Mom's eyes welled up. Boundaries? Yes. I leaned forward, resting my glass gently on the tablecloth. So here's what I want, not as punishment, but as change. I turned to my father first. You spent years defining worth by numbers and titles. I'm asking you to stop measuring people by their income and start seeing them by their courage. Start with Ethan. Don't bail him out the next time his business falters. Let him build something real. Dad blinked, caught between defensiveness and guilt. Then I faced my brother. Ethan, I'm willing to invest in your next idea, but only if you present it to me like any other entrepreneur. No shortcuts. No family favoritism. You'll pitch it in my office, just like everyone else. He nodded slowly, jaw tight, eyes glistening with something that wasn't quite shame, maybe gratitude. Finally, I turned to my mother. You always wanted everything to look perfect, Mom. But perfection doesn't build love. Vulnerability does. Promise me you'll stop pretending everything's fine when it isn't. Especially with me. Her lips trembled. I promise, she whispered. I smiled softly, not triumphant, just free. Good. Because I don't need you to be proud of me anymore. I just need you to be real. A long silence followed, broken only by the band's faint tune drifting from the ballroom. For the first time in years, no one was performing. My father finally exhaled, voice quiet. You've become someone remarkable, Olivia. I looked at him evenly. No, Dad. I've just become myself. The truth settled between us, simple, peaceful, undeniable. And for the first time, it felt like they actually saw me. By the time the night ended, the wedding lights had dimmed into a soft amber glow. The guests had drifted out, laughter fading into the cool New York air. Only a few stragglers remained, lingering by the bar, still whispering about the sister in the kitchen who owned the place. I stepped out onto the terrace overlooking the city, heels in one hand, champagne glass in the other. The skyline shimmered like a crown in the distance. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Olivia? It was my mother. Her tone wasn't sharp this time. No correction, no control. Just my name, spoken gently. She walked up beside me, her shawl pulled tight around her shoulders. For a long moment, we both just stared at the lights. I was wrong, she finally said. About so many things. You didn't need my version of security. You needed belief. And I didn't give you that. I smiled faintly, tears threatening, but held back. Maybe I needed to learn how to believe in myself first. She looked at the silver bracelet around my wrist, Grandma's bracelet. You still wear it. Every day, I said softly. She believed before anyone else did. Mom nodded, eyes glistening. She'd be proud. I think she is, I whispered. Inside, the last song began to play, something slow and nostalgic. Ethan was dancing with his new wife, and Dad sat quietly at the table, his hand wrapped around an untouched glass of wine. For the first time, the scene didn't hurt. It just existed. And I could finally stand in it without shrinking. I glanced at my mother, then back at the glowing skyline. You know, Mom, I said, half smiling. When they seated me in the kitchen tonight, I thought it was the same story all over again. But then I realized it wasn't. It was my moment to write the ending differently. She touched my arm lightly. You did, sweetheart. I looked down at the city, at the reflection of my own lights flickering in the windows below. This time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt infinite. I slipped the bracelet higher on my wrist and whispered the words Grandma once told me, the ones that built my life. Never wait for a seat at their table. Build your own, and serve yourself first. Then I turned toward the ballroom one last time, smiling softly as the music faded. They once seated me in the kitchen, I murmured to myself. But now, I own the whole house.